Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. We join you as we head into another July weekend. You begin what is supposed to be the second half of the baseball season, but we know we're long past that. You're down to the nitty-gritty now. Most teams have about 65 games to play. Obviously, now it'll all be about trades to that first week in August. Now that there are a lot of teams in the mix, a lot of teams that feel they can make a run at the wild card. And then there's a couple like the Mets who know that they have to go shopping and selling a good number of players. The Mets admit they don't have many guys that aren't tradable. You know who they are. Okay. Scott, the two pitchers, McClain and Scott, and Soto and the two baby outfielders. Those guys are going nowhere. Anybody else, including Lindor, is tradable. And like I said weeks ago, Lindor is there to be traded, but it's not going to be an easy thing to do with his salary, with his no trade, and everything else. There's some teams, obviously, if they trade him into a pennant race, he might find that accommodating. It's funny. It won't happen. But let's be honest. The Yankees and Mets could make a tremendous trade. The Yankees have some players who could help the Mets. They have them in the farm system. They have them in their rotation. They have them in their outfield. There's no question. Or guys who could be DHs. I'm talking about a guy like Dominguez, Spencer Jones, guys like that who clearly can play in the major leagues. The question is, how well are they going to play in the major leagues? But the bottom line is they have pitching. They have a depleted farm system, but they have a couple of jewels. Obviously, a hard-throwing pitcher who has a couple of arm issues right now, and Lombard, who they don't want to trade. Now, let's be honest. I don't know if the Yankees would eat the money or make the Mets eat how much of the money. But the Yankees, without question, if you gave them a reliever, and I don't buy this Mason Miller stuff, okay? That's pie in the sky. The idea that Colorado's going to trade their catcher is pie in the sky. The idea that San Diego's going to trade, if they trade Miller, you're going to have to give away the farm to get him. That guy is unbelievable. You're going to get a closer like that, the best closer in baseball. It's not going to happen. I mean, I don't see him, especially with how long he's controllable. I don't see him being traded. I would be stunned if he is. With that pie in the sky stuff being off the table, I think, as Taylor says, hello, I think that they really do match up incredibly well because the Yankees need a right-handed hitting catcher. The Mets have one. They have two, but they could go. And the Mets always go hot and cold with Alvarez. You don't know how they feel day to day. Obviously, last night he hits 2 home runs. We know how much power he has. I don't know that guys like Cole and Fried, who were fussy, would like pitching to him. That's an issue too, especially late in the season. But he would help the team immeasurably with his bat. And I know this is crazy, but the Yankees need a shortstop. Lindor and a right-handed catcher. The Mets could service that unbelievably. They could make a great package. They could also throw in a reliever, which the Yankees could use. They have plenty of them. And I don't know. I'm not talking about Weaver specifically going back to the Yankees, but the bottom line is they're not going to make that kind of mega trade. It's not going to happen. Okay, so if he's going somewhere, it won't be there. That won't be the case. I'd be stunned if that happens. I really would. Now, as far as the second half, I told you, as far as the Mets are concerned, I don't care what they do day to day. The season's over. It's long over. I don't care about what happens. Listen, the two baby outfielders have already showed you they can play. I really like Ewing. I like him a lot. Ben shows he can play too. Soto's going nowhere. That's your outfield going forward. They're really good defensively. They have speed. You bat them top of the lineup, all right, or you bat one first and one sixth. Listen, they're going to be there. And Soto likes the young kids. They get along, the whole thing. That's those three outfielders and the two pitchers are the core of the Mets going forward. That's it. They'll build from there. How many relievers they keep, we'll see. There'll be a big market for the Met relievers without any question. Big market for a lot of things on the Mets, as a matter of fact. Now, So there's not much to talk about the Mets. I don't care about them winning games. I don't care. You care how Scott pitches, yes. You care how McLean pitches, yes. You don't care about much else. You really don't. And day to day, they're not going anywhere. Let's be honest. Okay, we know that they had the plates 41-24. Well, 40-24 after last night. 40-24 just to get to 500. They won't play anywhere near 40-24. This is a big weekend for the Yankees. Now they finished the regular season. They finished the first half, if you want to call it the first half, before the most boring All-Star game ever played. They win the game in Tampa. They have to win. They steal 3 games because Washington has no bullpen. Give them credit for that. They had to get the hits, draw the walks, make the plays, but the bullpen was as bad as anything I've ever seen. Yankees took advantage of that. Now they're home this weekend. Big weekend because the Dodgers are here. Listen, I know Judge isn't here. I don't know what their plan is for Ohtani for the weekend. Doesn't sound like it's good from his standpoint. Still, without the reigning stars, it's always a big deal when the Dodgers come to New York. I know that a lot of the Dodger fans are gone, but there are still some out there who are part of that. Remember, the Dodgers broke a gazillion hearts when they left. A gazillion. Some people never got over it. Many of them, most of them, became Met fans when National League Baseball returned to the big city. But whenever the Dodgers arrive, and whenever the Yankees and the Dodgers are inside the same stadium, it's an event. That's all there is to it. Because, let's be honest, they're the Yankees, they're the Dodgers. That is as good as it gets. That is special. The Yankees, obviously, the Dodgers, for what they've accomplished, the only team in the National League that even comes close is the St. Louis Cardinals. It's still Dodgers. You see the uniform, you think of the heritage, you think of the connection, and right now they come in flashing the best record in baseball, and the pitching matchups, all night games, big crowds, hot tickets, 3 interesting matchups. Cole on the mound tonight. Sheehan against Weathers on a Saturday night, and then on a Sunday night, Yamamoto and Schlittler. How much better can it get? Dodgers, Yankees. You want to call it a World Series preview? I'm sure the Dodgers think so. The Yankees hope so. Dodgers, Yankees, Sunday night, Yamamoto, Schlittler. It doesn't get any better than that. Of course you want Ohtani in the lineup. You want Judge in the lineup. Maybe that doesn't happen. You can't have everything. But whenever, like I said, the 2 teams step on the same field, it's an event. That's all there is to it. There's so much tradition there. There's so much that is right about baseball there. There's so much that is electric when that happens. So it's always a big deal when it's the Dodgers. And they do come in at 61-36 with the best record in baseball, even though they can play better, even though they can get healthier, even though they can have guys who can do better. They're still loaded. They're still favored to win the whole thing. And the Yankees would like to put their best foot forward. They've won 4 games in a row. They're 4 back in the loss column to Tampa. We know they're going to the postseason. They want to go there the right way. They want to play well down the stretch. There's a lot of issues here. We don't know what's up with Judge physically. We don't know what's up with Stanton physically. You're still waiting for Fried to come back. You're waiting for Cole to get on the beam. All right. The Yankees can be better in a lot of spots. And before this 4-game win streak, they were just putrid. Looks like Bellin's just come out of it. How ironic, after the worst slump he's probably ever been in his whole life, he winds up had to give somebody the MVP. I mean, you get a 2-run single in the first inning, you're not thinking you're going to get an MVP, but hey, we're in too many choices. You got all those different pitchers throwing an inning, if they even threw an inning, and you have the National League doing absolutely nothing except striking out in what was just an awful, awful, boring baseball. Listen, good pitching, but awful baseball. Um, so it's still a big deal. 3 night games. Hopefully, the particles and the Canadian fires that have been filtering our air are lesser. I thought yesterday was the worst. The number in Manhasset yesterday was actually higher than it was in New York City. It was 209 in New York City because I looked, and it was 211 in Manhasset. You could actually see the air yesterday. This morning, when I drove the kids to the train, it was not as bad. Now, I don't know if it's going to get worse again or not, but hopefully that's not an issue this weekend. So it makes it more comfortable at the stadium. It looks like it's going to cool off over the weekend. So if you're headed to the ballpark, and I know a lot of you are this weekend, you should see some good stuff with the Yankees and the Dodgers. Now, in this time where, let's say you're not a Yankee fan and you're a disgruntled Met fan, or you're just waiting for football, as a lot of fans are, and counting the days, well, training camp is upon us. The training camp in full for the Jets is the 28th. Training camp in full for the Giants is the 28th. The Giants' first open practice at the Greenbrier will be July 30th. They're going to spend some time down in West Virginia at the Greenbrier. As I've told you before, the Greenbrier is not easy to get to. It's a couple hours from an airport. I've been there a couple of times. It is, I guarantee you that if you take the time to drive there, and I heard someone say that it's 7.5 hour drive from New York. I don't know. But that's what they said. It sounds kind of right because it's in the middle of nowhere. But let me tell you something. If you go there, and I know I've been on that field that they built. The first team that practiced there was the Saints. I was there when the Saints practiced there because the Saints needed to come. They needed to go somewhere, so they came there. And the guy who owns it has been not only a very wealthy man, but a big political figure in the state. So they had some clout. The Saints were there. Now the Giants are there. And as I said to you, if you're getting a group of guys together and you're going to camp for a couple of days, you will love it. Because the place also has one of the nicest, and I'm not trying to spend your money, but one of the nicest casinos for guests with every kind of game, not computers, people, people at the tables, people at every station. So it's real casino. Plus they have race book there. So if you want to bet Saratoga, if you're a race person, and they have everything there. Obviously they have world-class golf because I've been there for a PGA event. That was one of the years we went was for the PGA event over 4th of July. We went with Jim Nance and his family. The other time we went, PGA wasn't there, but it has everything. Incredible facilities. It's kind of an older building, but it's great staff, great food, perfectly appointed. It's an old, big, white building. It's a classic kind of old hotel. Really, you will have a great time if you take your family. There's a ton of stuff for them to do. A ton of activities. They have everything. For the kids, they have everything. They have archery. They have animal stuff. They have incredible swimming pools. Pools that those infinity pools that go right to the edge are great looking. They have those. They have tons of golf. They have everything you could imagine, every sport you could imagine. And like I said, if you're there, restaurants, and if you're there with just the guys, the casino, or if you can sneak away for a little while late at night, the casino is terrific. It really is. It's a great casino, and it's not crowded because it really only services the people in the hotel. It's really a great place. I would be shocked if anyone went there and then said to me, "Mike, you sent me there. It was awful." The place is great. Like I said, it is in the middle of nowhere. It is 2 hours from anywhere. It's 2 hours from a hotel, from an airport. It's flew there, so I don't know the whole deal driving there, but the bottom line is, if you take the time to get there, which I'm sure is gonna be a day's trek, you will have a great time. The Giants are gonna practice there openly, uh, so you can go and as you know, if you were old enough to have experience before they started staying at home, at Quest, if you go back to the Albany days, when the teams are away, the players are very comfortable. They walk around the facilities. Doug and I always did our shows up in Albany with the Giants. We ate at the training tables with the players during lunch. We kept running inside because it was so hot. We ran inside to get in the air conditioning during the breaks because it was like 100 degrees in the shade when we were doing shows there. And we would do them from where the field was, and it was from the top step of their athletic facility. And inside, you walk in, and their pool was to the left in Albany, and it was air conditioned. So I used to always just sit there and look at the pool during the breaks because it was nice and cool in there. But as you know, in those settings, the players are very comfortable. They walk around. They walk from one building to the other. They'll take pictures. They'll sign autographs. They're in a much more comfortable setting than they are if they're here. And it's really great for the kids. They can get a ton of autographs. They can actually rub elbows with the players. They can see practice. So from that standpoint, going is a real positive for the kids and for any football fans. And the Giants will have their first open practice there on the 30th. Now, I said this before. There is an incredible amount of optimism surrounding both teams, not just the Giants, which you would expect because of who they brought in and because of the emergence of the young quarterback. But there's a lot around the Jets because from a standpoint of what they could make offseason moves about, they made positive. They traded well. They drafted well. They've taken the right steps there. Now, last year was about as bad a nightmare. I mean, if Glenn wasn't Glenn, if he didn't have the long-term contract and the history he has with the Jets, he probably wouldn't have survived the first year. But he is Glenn, which gives him some cachet and allows him, even though I've told you that the power structure has changed, the bottom line is Glenn's got his chance here. The staff's going to be better just by the presence of Frank Reich because the Jets last year, their game plans, you would think they did it on the back of a milk carton or something. I mean, or on the back of an envelope. It was that bad. I mean, it was almost impossible for them to throw a legitimate forward pass. That's all going to change. They have some positives now, especially their offensive line, their offensive skill people. What they have now at wide receiver, what they have now at tight end, and with Geno Smith, the quarterback. Listen, I'm not a Geno Smith fan. I'm dismissing the offseason stuff because I don't. The one bad claim about the assault and everything turned out not to be true, or at least they dropped the charges because there was no evidence. Seemed like it was a disgruntled employee who he may have been involved with, which isn't right either. But and his speeding. Hey, no speeding is good. You should control your car and control your speed, but it wasn't like he was going 100 and a 40. He was going 70 in a 40 or 70 in a 40 or 45, something like that. Shouldn't do it, but it wasn't like he needed to be put in cuffs. He wasn't going 120 in a 40. Last year, he was the victim of one of the worst coaching jobs and one of the worst offensive lines I have ever seen. He had no chance. The rookie running back who was such a big star going into the season, who had a tough first season, had no chance. He got hit in the backfield on almost every play, so did Geno. They had as bad an offensive line as I've ever seen. And as you've seen from times with the Giants and the Jets, you cannot perform in this league if you don't block the people for your offensive people. It can't be done. I mean, you don't have an offensive line, you're going to get destroyed. Now he has an offensive line. He's got improved weapons. They should be better offensively. They have a legitimate play caller, a legitimate man to run the offense. Frank Reich is a proven guy there. And here's what I'll say, though. I think the optimism is a little ahead of what the product is and what the realistic approach is. Training camp will not tell the story for the Jets. Because the training camp, unless something really weird happens, like a bad rash of injuries or something, the stories out of training camp are going to be, oh, he looks great. Oh, he looks good. Oh, they look so much improved. Oh, they look like they're on step. The offense looks this, that. You're going to hear positives out of that. It means nothing. The Jets and Glenn have to prove that they can step on the field for game one and have better direction, better planning, better attitude, better execution. And it has to be there from game one. Game one will be very important because if they come out and tank it, and it's the same thing we saw last year, the clock's going to start ticking on Glenn. I don't think he has the whole season. A bad start might elevate Frank Reich to be the head coach by 7 or 8 games. So they need to be okay and show vast improvement, but it wouldn't be hard to do that considering how bad they were last year. But training camp is not going to send a message that is going to tell you anything. You're going to have to wait till game one, and you want to see it right from the get-go at game one. A lot of people are talking about it just being vastly improved. That's a bit of a reach. Improved would be positive rather than vastly improved, which I don't expect. Now, it's very different with the Giants because this is a complete culture change. And let's be honest, they have a real coach, a real dyed-in-the-wool head coach for the first time since Tom left. This team has been to the bottom of the abyss. This is a proud franchise, a franchise that until this last run had a record of success that ranked with any. I mean, over a quarter of a century, they went to 5 Super Bowls, pulled off 2 of the big upsets ever, and won 4 of them. Only had the one bad one, which they've made that coach and that group of players pay for that bad performance in the Super Bowl because they're so spoiled by their other 4 Super Bowl performances. Because you think of them. They go to Pasadena as a heavy favorite, and they blow them out in the second half. That's Super Bowl 1 for them. Super Bowl 2 is one of the finest games, if not the finest Super Bowl ever played. No turnovers, played in the backdrop of the Gulf War, cloaked in patriotism, Whitney Houston, the whole thing. One of the great games ever played in the NFL. Giants were 7-point underdogs after beating San Francisco on the road as an 8.5-point underdog, stopping the three-peat for the Niners, stunning the world there, coming to 1 week later into Tampa and upsetting the Buffalo team that was considered a juggernaut, which had scored 51 points against the Raiders in the AFC title game. That's Super Bowl number 2. Then you have the 2 giant Pat, Brady, Eli, Coughlin, Belichick Super Bowls, both won by Tom Coughlin, including maybe the most important upset in the history of the sport. Because it not only stopped a perfect season, it stopped really to a level, stopped immortality for Belichick and slowed immortality for Brady. If they win those giant games, you know what that Patriot record looks like? They lose both those games. When you think about it, Coughlin and Eli, and that's why they're both Hall of Famers, went up against the juggernaut, the beast, twice and beat them both times. Coughlin, Manning, Brady, Belichick. 2 wins for the Blue, no wins for the Pats. Changed the course of history. And that's why Eli Manning's 2 fourth quarters in those 2 Super Bowls are testimony that you don't need anything else. You don't need the playoff win in Dallas. You don't need the playoff win in Green Bay. You don't need any of the stuff that he did, comebacks in the regular season, any of that stuff, durability, anything else. Those 2 fourth quarters are all you need to secure those 2 MVPs and those 2 victories, and that's why he's a Hall of Famer without any question. But the Giants have a head coach for the first time since Tom Coughlin. They won't just climb out of that abyss. They will be launched out of that abyss by this head coach. Everything in their culture has changed, and that means from practice 1, from training camp on, you will see a huge difference in the culture, in the attitude, in how they work, in how they're expected to work, in what accountability means. Now, does that mean he's going to turn this around and win, 13 games in his first year with the Giants and go to the Super Bowl? No. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think they'll be competitive. I do think they'll play big games in the last 3 weeks of the season. I think they'll be alive for the playoffs then as a wild card, but I think they will probably fall short. First of all, you got to give him a chance to weed out the guys he doesn't want. There's going to be some. Some of them might surprise you. There's going to be a weeding out process with Harbaugh. But there's a few things you know that you can count on now. They're going to work really hard. Really hard. They're going to be expected to do the right things, and they're going to be held accountable. But on top of that, you're not going to have situations where they don't bring the right people to the games. That days are over. That they don't know what they're doing on special teams. Those games are over. Harbaugh is a special teams coach. He puts the foot back in football. There's 2 things you're going to see in this team is that one, there's going to be an accent on special teams. And I believe even with the flashy young quarterback, who I'll get to in a minute, I believe this is going to be a running football team. I think that's what Harbaugh will believe in, and I think he wants that to take the pressure off his defense in year 1 because his defense is going to be behind. Will they be able to throw the ball? Yes. Will they throw the ball with purpose? Yes, especially if obviously their big receiver is healthy. But you're going to see a lot of stuff with the tight ends. You're going to see a lot of different looks with the tight ends. You're going to see him accentuate the tight end position, and you're going to see them run the ball a lot. And that means the quarterback will run the ball. He will run the ball, but he will not run the ball carelessly. And obviously a big part of it is the health of the running backs, but they will run the football because that will help them in a game that will be played with an accent on special teams, field position, controlling the clock, and supporting a defense that has to prove that it can make up for a big loss in the middle of that defensive line and can somehow be better in a lot of areas defensively. They have a lot of work to do defensively. They got to first prove they can stop the run, obviously, because you can't do that. It's elementary. This defense will not, despite the fact it has a pass rush, it still has to be able to stop the run. If you can't stop the run, nothing else matters. And they have a lot of work to do on that defense, and I don't believe it'll be done all in year 1. I don't think any of it will all be done in year 1. And that's why I think, put a gun to my head, I'd make I'd make it an 8-9 season. Will there be improvement? Enormously. Will it have a different feel to it? Enormously. You got a real coach now. This is a real regime now. They're out of the folly days. They're not clowns anymore. This is not the circus anymore. The circus left town. The day that Chris Mara went down to ensure, and don't think that it didn't get a little sketchy at the end because it did. It did. Where not that they were second guessing, but that they were dangling that they could always go elsewhere. And Chris Mara, who has become very close to Harbaugh, from what I understand, and now is taking over the football leadership. The Maras do the football, the Tishes do the finance. John Mara's always been that, but obviously he's not well, and we send our best to John always. Chris has waited a long time for this. Chris has been a football guy for a very long time. He's been a part of the Giants for a very long time, but he had obviously taken a role that kept him in the background because John was the head of the family and the head of the football. Wellington, then John. Now it's Chris's turn. And Chris has a football background, a personnel background. So he knows what he's doing. And he and Harbaugh are very close and have gotten very close. And Chris was very instrumental in bringing him here without any question. And obviously, Harbaugh wanted to come to the Giants. I'm not saying he didn't, but the point is, still everything has to work, including that Harbaugh made sure that he was answering to nobody but ownership, which is the fact. And Shane has gotten in line. Give Shane credit because everything I've heard, and I was not a Shane fan, everything I've heard is that Shane has really gotten in line, understands where he is in the line, and has taken to doing a job that would help him support Harbaugh and Chris rather than try to prove that he is still the guy. He's not the guy. Harbaugh's the guy. Okay, this is Harbaugh's team. He's running the football operation now. That's it. He only answers to ownership, and they're letting Harbaugh run with the ball. This is his franchise. He is now in charge, and I think the Giants are in very good hands. I'm not predicting a miracle in year one under Harbaugh. You will see market improvement and a huge culture change right from the opening day of training camp. Now, let me close with the quarterback. Obviously, he got a great deal of positive attention last year, and rightly so. He played well. It was exciting. When you have a young quarterback like that, it really lifts the entire franchise because you can't win big in this league unless you solve that issue. It's a quarterback league. It's a quarterback intensive league. There's nothing worse than the NFL than having two guys in who can't play the position because the game suffers immeasurably. My issue with this quarterback is not on the field, although he does have to. He reminds me, and I'm not saying he's as wild as Favre was because nobody's as wild as Favre was. Nor am I telling you that he has, although he has a good arm, I'm not telling you he has Favre's arm because Favre could throw the fastball. Favre threw the ball so hard, sometimes he broke guys' fingers. He needs to be less reckless, but understand when it's worth it to go for it and when it's silly to go for it. That's what will come with experience and age, a wisdom that tells him the answer. In the first quarter, you don't take on a 250-pound linebacker to get the extra 2 feet on the sideline. You go out of bounds. In the fourth quarter, with the game on the line, you take them on. You have to know the difference because otherwise you'll wind up in a body bag or in the concussion tent every week, and no one wants that. But the other part of this is, and I would hope they've had this talk, and I wouldn't be surprised if they already have. I don't know this, but I wouldn't be surprised. The young quarterback has to wait. Do it on the field, and this city will respond. Use Brunson as an example. Do it on the field, and this city will make you a king. You don't have to run out and be Mr. First Nighter and be on the red carpet and be everywhere and make every scene. You're a rookie quarterback. Earn your stripes on the field first. Be a winning quarterback, then be a celebrity quarterback. Don't try to be a celebrity quarterback before you are a real quarterback. And he's not yet a real quarterback. And there's a lot of trappings being in New York, you know, being a kid who's exciting. Okay, he's got the right look, he's exciting, the whole thing. There's a lot of trappings in modern sports for those guys. There's a lot of ways for them to go. There's a lot of people throwing things at them. There's a lot of people in their ear. There's a lot of people telling them this is the way to go. And they do this and market this and do that. All you need to do in this town is win. Is your job and win. And everything you've ever dreamed of will be at your feet. So anything that someone whispers to you that, hey, this is the way to get here, this is the way to do this is the way to riches, this is the way to go out on the field, do your job, win the game, become a winner, lead the franchise. You'll get everything and more than you ever dreamed of. And I think this young quarterback needs that. He needs a lower off the field profile until he becomes what we all hope he becomes. And that starts in just a couple of days. And you want to see that, and you want to see him being all business, and you can count on the team and the head coach being all business. For the Jets, I think you're going to hear good things out of training camp. Okay, everything's this, everything's that, everything's moving quicker. The offense is this, the offense is that. We're going to be this, we're going to be that. Fine. We need to see it on the field in the first game. There has to be improvement in a lot of areas. For the Giants, you'll see it from the first moment they step out as a Harbaugh team. You will notice the difference right away. There's a big difference. You have a proven football coach and a coach still searching for who he needs to be as a coach and how he's going to lead a team and a staff. That's why some of the optimism with the Jets to me is a little over the top. Well, for the Giants, you know there's going to be an enormous change just by his mere. We've already seen it. And you'll see it every day they play. It's going to be an exciting and uplifting. There's going to be a lot of positivity as the season is about to start. Hopefully this year we get to carry that into the season. And I think things will be better. I think on the Giants side, they will be markedly better. I hope the Jets head in the right direction. Because otherwise, it's just going to get uglier and uglier there. We'll see you later.